Hi there, welcome to the Black Uplift. I hope you're doing well. So, today I want to talk about a topic that both inspires me and frustrates me because of where we're at. It's on the subject of Black unity. I think there are very few spaces that talk about uplifting the Black race that will not bring up the point of being united. Being united together as one Black family across the world, because we have recognized that that is part of where our power is going to come from, because there are a lot of us. If you're just looking in a particular country or in a particular section, it might not look like a lot, but if we come together, if we pull together, the Black family in the continent, the Black family in the diaspora, from North America to South America, countries like Brazil, all the Black community globally, I think we all recognize that's where the power is going to come from. And so, like I said, there's hardly any space that's seriously talking about raising the Black race as a whole that wouldn't recognize that, and realizing that that's where the empowerment is going to come from, creating our own economies, creating our own systems that can compete and rival what white supremacy has put in place. So it's against that backdrop, that talk of unity, that excites me, and the thought of it gets me giddy, and I think of what we can do together with our brilliance. Over the last few months, I have been educating myself on the history of the continent before 1500s, before 1400s. The advancement that we had on the continent before that, the medical procedures that were being done, the architecture that we had, the books, the philosophy, the mathematics, the advances in science, and all of that was happening in the continent before the sort of dangerous and devastating interaction we had with the Caucasians. And the thought of being able to pull together like that again and create that excellence, that Black excellence, that beautiful Black excellence, to the point where we can feel pride in our race as a whole, to a point where we won't have young children wishing to be something other than Black, instead to feel proud of that. That makes me giddy. You can probably hear it in my voice. That makes me really excited. And then we have an incident like what happened maybe like a couple of weeks ago, where we had Adele, a British singer, who decided to don a Jamaican outfit and had bantu knots on her hair to celebrate, as she said, the culture. And there were people who came to her defense, explaining that she had grown up around that culture in London. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into the details of whether or not it was right or wrong for her to do that. That is a whole other topic. I certainly see the point of people saying that it is unfair when the same behavior, the same outfit, the same get together, if a Black woman does that, she doesn't get any accolades for that. In fact, she is looked down upon. Growing up where I grew up, having hair like this wasn't the in thing. Everyone's trying to have their hair straightened to be taken seriously. And then you have a white woman, and she gets praised for it. So I can completely understand that. But I tell you what was disappointing for me. So we had our African American brothers and sisters, feeling uncomfortable about this, speaking up about this, saying this feels like cultural appropriation. And then we have Africans in the diaspora. Africans, so by the diaspora, I actually meant to say Africans in the continent. A few in Europe who didn't have an issue with that. The disappointing thing for me was they then decided to not only say they don't see a problem with this, they went on to then attack the African Americans. That was disappointing. That was so disappointing for me to see, for me to read, and I couldn't believe it. To think that after everything we've been through this year, after everything, I mean, globally, it's been a pretty shitty year. There's no other way to put it. Our African American brothers and sisters, personally, I feel like they've had a pretty shitty time this year, not just with COVID. They've dealt with open brutality in public for the whole world to see. They have a president in office who makes it pretty clear that whatever they're going through is not as important to him. So they've been through a lot, and they're fighting, and they're trying to keep some sense of sanity and togetherness and build themselves up. And to be attacked by their own people, how can you not stop at, okay, saying you don't see anything wrong with what Adele does and leave it there? Why would you then go on and attack your own family? I saw comments like, I don't know what's wrong with these African Americans who made them the gatekeepers of blackness. They want to project their problems on us. For their problem is your problem. I hate to say that, because blackness and anti-blackness is a global thing. If you think you're different because you're in a place where the racism is, it's not to your face, they smile to your face and stab you in the back, they shake you in the hand and steal with the other hand behind you, and you think you're in a better position, and you think you're different, and you think their problem is not your problem, you're incredibly mistaken, and you're picking the wrong fights. That is an in-house thing. This is not the time for infighting. It's really not. When things are sorted, when we get to a point where the fight against the outside is done, we can deal with the in-house stuff. If you want to deal with them at the same time, not in public. I was so disappointed to see that, and I wonder, is that just a few people? Or is that actually what a lot of them feel? You know, this thing was literally trending on Twitter. African Americans and how they felt that they were trying to push their narrative on everyone else. I was so disappointed, as if they haven't been through enough already. They have their own people coming for them, attacking them, saying essentially, you're on your own. This is your problem. Don't make it ours. Those are our cousins, man. Those are our cousins, those are our brothers and sisters who have the misfortune to be taken away and put to work in the most horrific way. And even when slavery ended, it wasn't truly over. They're still fighting, even today, for the right to just be equal, for that to be a given, to not have to shout, hey, see me, I'm a person, but for that to just be the status quo. And they've had to really confront the fact that that is not yet the case this year. And then they have an attack from their own as well. and we're doing that to support this. Nothing against Adele. I enjoy her music. I am probably sure she meant no harm with wearing this, but you don't go fighting your family in public over this. It was very disappointing to see that. And why is that happening? So I go back to the question, when will we have Black unity? I genuinely believe that that is going to be one of the keys to getting to where we say we want to go to. And how can we do that if we're infighting, especially over stupid things, to defend people who, in the grand scheme of things, don't mean anything for our cause? When do we get to that point? Because I think until we get there on our own, as individual places, it's going to be a hard fight. It's the same thing that happened, that is happening in the continent right now, where you have the continent split up into these 54 countries that they did in the Berlin Conference in the 1800s. And you have these countries that are, in a lot of cases, so small they can't hold their own in the international market. And so when you have small countries trying to trade with these huge places like America and Japan, just the difference, it's almost like an uphill battle. And so we're trying to bring things together. We're trying to unite and get that strength in numbers and speaking with one voice. And we're infighting to defend a Muzungu, to air our dirty laundry in public, and to tell them that their fight is their own. It's nothing to do with you. I am not African American, but I could see what was happening, and that was very disappointing for me. And I truly hope that that is not a sign of where or of how most continental Africans feel, because then we have a very long way to go. And now I understand that the level of exposure and awareness to white hate that our brothers and sisters in America have felt, it's different to what would have been experienced in the continent. Like I said, we have the smiling face type, we have the type that pretends to be nice, and so a lot of the times people in the continent don't really know what they're dealing with. They think everyone's like them. They assume people have good intentions, and history shows that's not the case. They come with an agenda. They come with a plan to go back and enrich their places and steal resources. And they can see this thing and they're shutting it down from the big to the small. And you're fighting them. The sooner we stop this fuckery of in-house fighting, the sooner we stand a chance of actually getting anywhere. So if you're one of those people that was engaged in that conversation, really stop and think. You need to know where to direct that energy, that anger, because I genuinely do not believe it's your African American brothers and sisters. What we need to be doing right now is pulling together, because at the end of the day, the world sees you as Black, period. That's it. So if you're thinking otherwise, or thinking it's going to be different, at some point we have to think beyond just ourselves. I mean, this is what happens with a lot of the leadership on the continent. The presidents, the leaders, they're thinking of just themselves, their immediate families, their immediate children and grandchildren, not the big picture. Countries are having 50, 100, 200-year plans. People are thinking of just their kids. rather than the collective, rather than being a visionary that's going to think, where do I want to see my people in 50 years' time, in 100 years' time? What is my vision for the continent? Not just, is my child going to have a house? Is my grandchild going to be taken care of? In that case, everything's good. It's not about just you as an individual being okay. We need to think as a collective, because we're suffering as a collective, and we're going to need to put up a fight as a collective to actually stand a chance of winning. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. If you observed this conversation online in the last few weeks, I want to hear your thoughts as well, what you think of that. And if you have a different opinion, by all means share that. I want to hear your thoughts as well. Black Uplift, I'll speak to you soon.